Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to the Food for the Faithful channel with me, Bill Reimer, your reluctant prophet. I just say that. I'm never really reluctant to say what I have to say because basically, let the fallout be whatever the fallout will be. I seek to tell you the truth, the unmitigated and unvarnished truth. I don't care about being popular. So, today's topic, the state of the nation as we face the collapse of the Trudeau-led LPC government. Justin Trudeau, along with his minions and supporters, have made a mockery of Canada's parliamentary democracy, proving that there is not a single functional or fit-for-purpose aspect of it in its present form. But most of all, Trudeau's cabal of illiberalism has made a mockery of the Canadians he was elected to serve. The government has squandered our fiscal advantage, hollowed out our military, shattered our immigration system, and shown little interest in our anemic productivity, while economic, geopolitical, and security threats to Canada rise to DEFCON levels. So says Kevin Lynch, and he wrote this in a column published in the Globe and Mail on January the 2nd. We have an unelected, appointed Senate poised to oppose Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives if and when the godless tyranny and fiscal imprudence of Trudeau ends in an election which Poilievre and his party will almost certainly win. But this only takes me back to my most frequent assertion regarding our socio-economic crisis, namely, that we are not merely facing a socio-economic crisis. Rather, we are in a spiritual battle between good and evil. There cannot be a political solution to a moral, philosophical, and spiritual crisis. Nevertheless, never let the perfect become the enemy of the good. So let us dig deeper to flesh out what can be done as we face an existential battle for Canadian democracy. Our present situation throughout the Anglosphere. When I was young, I never imagined that Great Britain and Commonwealth countries like Canada would be holding political prisoners whose only crime was to peacefully and publicly express legitimate concerns about their government, its policies, particularly regarding unvetted immigration and the resulting crime. Both Great Britain and Canada have provided concrete proof as to just how authoritarian radical leftists will become as they hide behind a false front of tolerance and inclusivity. I've been warning about the dangers of postmodern cultural relativism and cultural Marxist critical race and gender theory since no later than 2013, while I was still living in uber-woke Norway. I have been labeled with the most horrible epithets by the ideologically possessed who are causing our socio-economic crisis, yet there is one thing that they've never been able to explain. Precisely why has everything I have been warning about actually come to pass? My detractors appear to be pathologically divorced from reality due to their ideological possession. Until we figure out how to deal what is arguably a critical mass of insanity, we will never be free of the damage idea pathogens are wreaking on functional social order. Because of those possessed by them, neo-Marxists like Trudeau have brought us to the brink of irreversible ruin. For his entire tenure, I've been tormented with a certain knowledge where his policies would lead us. Despite this, many still cling to their ideological delusions. I have lost, if I ever had any, in all faith in humanity. Apparently, our present selves delight in murdering our future selves in the vain hope that God can be cheated. So why have Canadians become so prone to accepting delusional ideation? Canadians suffer from an appalling ignorance of the actual nature of the problems we face as a society. There is an old saying in the Icelandic Eddas, "A witless man believes everything he thinks between the mountains where he dwells." Many are living their lives devoid of real perspective. This is partly due to many being far too willing to accept the deconstruction and misrepresentation of truth fed to them by the government, as well as the government's puppets in the state-funded Fourth Estate. Not only are many Canadians' subjective experiences woefully inadequate, but many also are devoid of curiosity, for it is curiosity that is required to actively look for alternative opinions that will challenge the commonly accepted narrative. This is particularly true for those who are comfortable living in their own preconceived echo chambers. For their ears reject anything which challenges their misconceptions. Interestingly, those who are most prone to holding these biases also believe themselves to be enlightened. Simultaneously, they dismiss those who challenge the official narrative's blatant falsehoods as troglodytes. This would be hilarious if it were not so damning. We must remember that a fish rots from the head down. Canadians have been completely betrayed by their leadership and the entitled, sanctimonious political class. Our system of education has been hijacked by leftist radicals who deliberately feed their students lies to indoctrinate and proselytize our youth in a radical, progressive agenda which accomplishes anything but bringing us progress. This has been a year when the size of the state has metastasized like cancer, while the democratic will of the citizen has been dismissed as unworthy of consideration. It is time to prepare for war, not merely on an ideological front, but also on a spiritual level. So my prayer for 2025, in 2024, two idea pathogens have merged to create the perfect ideological storm. Postmodern cultural relativism and cultural Marxist critical race and gender theory caused us to reach a point where Canada is committing socio-economic suicide out of parasitical empathy. May 2025 witness the death of these mind viruses which threaten the bedrock of Western civilization. But I warn you, ideological possession only comes out with much prayer and fasting. These neo-Marxist beliefs form the basis of the Gnostic mystery religion of which Trudeau appointed himself the high priest. His nihilistic ideas form the basis of the pathological zeitgeist which will destroy us if we don't stop it. Our only hope is to repent, that we may receive the divine deliverance which God wishes to bring to Canada, but only if we return to Him. The very great problem we have in combating totalitarian regimes is that we have never come to terms with how truly hideous the ideologies which possess our enemies. There can be no underestimating the hold that parasitical ideas have on people's minds, nor can what people believe be defeated politically. Like dogs returning to vomit, totalitarian ideologies have been kept alive here by the very institutions we have entrusted to protect us from them. All the worst ideas that originated in the 19th century, which led to the murder of millions in the 20th century, are still possessing the lecture halls of the Academy in the 21st century. They have captured the hearts and minds of far too many today. We are facing an ideological disaster where our families and friends have become our ideological enemies. Remarkably, these ideologies require that we surrender our individuality and autonomy to the state-run collective, despite what label the elite may apply to them. I swear, by the Almighty, that as long as God gives me breath and the right words to use to defeat this type of ideological possession, the very type of possession which has captured the minds and hearts of so many Canadians, that I will never be silent. My ancestors came to Canada long before we became a dominion to help create a unified Christian nation under God, built on peace, order, and good government. So these are some things to think and pray about as we enter 2025 and pray for divine deliverance. Because even if and when Trudeau is defeated, these ideas live on in the minds and hearts of far too many Canadians. How are we going to counter that? Can't be done politically. We have to begin to speak to our family and friends and dare to speak out regardless of how it affects our relationship with them. They need to be warned, and it's up to us to do it. God bless you all. These are things to think and pray about on this January the 4th, 2025. God bless you. Have a wonderful afternoon.